Since I have all the mechanics down, it was time to add a tutorial to the game. Nobody likes to be constrained. That's why players in games go beyond bounds or exploit systems to experiment with the game mechanics. As players, we love complete autonomy and generally don't like to be told what to do. This is where the concept of invisible tutorials come into play. An invisible tutorial is a tutorial where the design pushes the player to take a certain action without the player realizing it, and therefore teaching them a mechanic of the game. Game Maker's Toolkit has an amazing video on this concept. Super Mario Bros. And the Half-Life series of games embrace this design philosophy. I wanted to create something similar. I wanted to design levels where the player had complete autonomy, yet they would learn the mechanics of the game. So keeping this in mind, I started designing levels for the game. In the first level, there's only one tile. The green tile is in the dead center. And by looking at the color of the other tiles, it is understood that the other tiles are passive or inactive. This encourages the player to tap the tile, and doing that completes the level. Now the player has learned what tapping a tile does. The second level has a row of tiles. From the previous level, they will remember that tapping a tile has a positive reward. But when they tap the tile, they will realize that all other tiles will also flip. There is no way of failing this level, because whatever tile they tap, it will flip all of them. The player learns about the chain reaction mechanic in this level. Level 3 has two rows of tiles. This level shows the player that the tiles don't interact vertically, only horizontally, and further solidifies the chain reaction mechanic. Level 4 has a row of tiles with one inactive tile. Since there are more tiles on the left side, players generally tap that side and see the chain reaction stop at the inactive tile. This teaches them about the limitations of the chain reaction and how it is broken when it encounters an inactive tile. Level 5 is just to make sure that the player understands these mechanics and can perform them. Level 6 is where the game introduces the board rotating mechanic. There are 5 tiles arranged vertically, and you can solve this by tapping the tiles individually. So I only give the players 4 moves. That is one less than the number of moves required to solve this with the tiles arranged vertically. So they are forced to explore a new mechanic. I also show an indicator to tell the player that they can swipe to rotate the board. Once they do swipe, the tiles are in the position that they have encountered before, and now the player can solve it easily. Level 7 homes in this mechanic. Level 8 is also a tricky one. On the surface, it is simple, but when a tile is tapped, it puts you in an impossible position. No matter how many moves you have, if you don't rotate the board, you can't complete this level. You have to tap a tile and then rotate the board and then finally tap a tile again. Next few levels play with this idea, and it makes sure that the player understands this newly introduced mechanic. Level 12 introduces the cross tile. Whatever tile the player taps in this level, they will see the cross tile in action and complete the level in one turn. Level 13 shows that a cross tile can carry a chain reaction. With this concentric pattern of the level, the player is encouraged to tap the center tile or the top left one, and they get to see this awesome effect of the chain reaction being carried. Next two levels just solidify this mechanic. Level 16 is when a new mechanic is introduced, an active cross tile that can be turned off. The only way to complete this level is to turn off the cross tile. The level teaches you about the difference between the active and the inactive cross tile. Level 17 introduces the inactive colored tiles. Only the leftmost tile being tappable tells the player about these inactive tiles and that they can only be changed by a chain reaction. Level 18 is a tough one. If you don't change anything and tap a tile, you end up making an infinite loop, and you have to restart the level. But if you disable the only active cross tile in the level, you can complete the level in 2 moves. And the last 2 levels just make it so you have to experiment with the inactive colored tile and the cross tile. Whenever I introduced a new mechanic, I tried to make it easy to use and fairly obvious to make the player understand the depth of this new mechanic. how this new mechanic interacts in the environment, and how it affects the old mechanics. Once I completed the 20 levels, I made a build and asked for volunteers to test the game, and I also made a feedback form to record their experience. Once the results for the levels were in, it was clear. Level 6, Level 16, and Level 18 is where the majority of the players got stuck. Level 6 introduces the grid rotation, Level 16 introduces the tappable cross tile, and Level 18 causes an infinite loop. For level 6, I'm going to add a more obvious indicator for rotating the board. For level 16, I'm going to change the color of the cross tile to make it more obvious that this tile does something different. And I think I'll just reserve level 18 for a more advanced stage. This was a lot of fun trying to figure out what a player would think in certain situations and designing a level around it. These levels are by no way perfect, and I will try to make them better, because I really believe that invisible tutorials are far superior than the hand-holdy ones. I also got a lot of other feedback that was really helpful too, about aesthetics, gameplay, and bugs. After I went through all of that, I called it a night. Next week, I'll be working on adding monetization features to the game.